The Howling, 1981, Film Review. Have you ever found yourself in a funk and nothing you do seems to make it any better? That's what happens to unfortunate news reporter Karen White in The Howling. With equal parts comedy and horror, it sinks its teeth early and never lets go. The pioneering special effects were state-of-the-art at the time and still hold up well today. There's a killer on the loose in Los Angeles. Goes by the name Eddie, but people are already calling him Eddie the Mangler. His victims resemble chewed up pieces of meat. He's been hounding a TV news reporter named Karen White with indecent phone calls. Local police collaborate with the news station to put together a sting operation. The plan is to get Eddie to meet with Karen, then have the cops bust in and arrest him. Karen's husband Bill and work colleagues Chris and Terry listen in via a hidden microphone that Karen wears, but the reception isn't so good. First she has to go to a certain street corner where there's a phone booth and it has Eddie's calling card on it, a smiley face sticker. Sure enough, the phone rings and it's Eddie. He wants her to go inside a nearby adult bookstore and look for another sign once she's there. She startles the seedy clientele of the porn shop as she comes through. She heads to the back, apparently to view a naughty film. Once there, she sees another smiley face sticker on the outside of a video viewing booth. Inside, someone is hiding in the darkness behind her. It's Eddie! He instructs her to watch as he drops a coin in the slot. A video of a brutal rape begins to play. Karen is horrified, but cooperates. After the video, Eddie tells Karen to turn around, but his voice is different somehow. She does so, and sees something horrible. Karen lets loose with a terrified scream, and the cops who have been following at a distance come running. One cop decides to shoot first and ask questions later, riddling Eddie with holes. Fortunately, Karen is unhurt except for the mental damage. A merciful wave of amnesia washes the experience away. In the following days, Karen's co-workers and investigative reporters, Chris and Terry, go to the apartment where Eddie lived. There they find creepy newspaper clippings and bizarre illustrations. One drawing is of Karen. Speaking of Karen, she returns to work, but while she's trying to deliver the news, her mind goes back to that horrible night, rendering her speechless. It's clear that she'll need more time and some professional help. That help comes from Dr. George Wagner, best-selling author and well-known psychiatrist, who thinks the best thing for Karen would be to get away for a while. He has the perfect place in mind. The colony is his own rural retreat along the coast to the north, where patients who need special care can relax, mingle, sing kumbaya, and eat plenty of meat. Karen and husband Bill make the drive. The first evening at the colony is a rollicking beach party complete with live folk band, barbecue, and all the fixins'. Those staying at the colony are an unusual bunch. A seductive young woman named Marcia catches Bill's eye. That night, Karen awakes to strange noises outside. Sounds like howling. Back in the city, Terry and Chris visit the morgue, where they convince the assistant to show them the corpse of Eddie the Mangler. Only problem is, the corpse is gone. The door to the cold storage cabinet is all torn up, like something clawed its way out from inside. They continue their search at an occult bookstore. They hope the proprietor can help them find information about body snatchers. That search isn't fruitful, but the book dealer mentions werewolves, and that gets Chris and Terry thinking. Mutilated cows are found at the colony, and they suspect a wolf has been preying on them. Bill is invited to participate in a hunt. They don't find any wolves, but Bill bags a rabbit. Another hunter tells him to seek out Marcia. She is a great cook and would happily prepare the rabbit for him. She's not in a big hurry to get the skin off the rabbit, but she's in a rush to get the clothes off the man. She tries her best to seduce him, but he tells her she's barking up the wrong tree. On his way back home, Bill is attacked and bitten by a wolf. That can't be good. Karen gets help from Dr. Wagner to make sure Bill doesn't catch rabies, and also calls Chris and Terry so they can come up immediately. Chris has an important presentation to make it work, so Terry goes ahead and he will follow when he can. Terry drives to the colony, where she notices how similar the landscape is to a drawing she found in Eddie's apartment. As Bill grows more distant and cold, it slowly dawns on Karen and Terry that there's a lot more to the colony than originally advertised. Can they get to the bottom of the mystery and get out before they become dog chow? The Howling was based on a novel of the same name by Gary Brandner, published in 1977. Avco Embassy Pictures had acquired the rights and was in the planning phase. At that time, director Joe Dante was hard at work on what could have been an Oscar contender, Jaws 3: People Zero. But that project was not coming along as planned, and would go in a completely different direction before it took its final form as the Jaws 3D we know and love today. The Howling was also stuck in the pre-production doldrums. The director and screenwriter were in the doghouse, and the producers sought to replace them. One of those producers, Michael Fennell, was friends with Joe Dante and asked him if he wanted to come on board. The director decided to jump ship, leaving Jaws 3: People Zero dead in the water. The first thing Dante did was hire a new screenwriter. Terrence Winkless provided a script that still remained pretty close to the novel by Brandner, but Dante was unsatisfied. He wasn't a fan of the book and strove to distance his film from it as much as possible. John Sayles had written Piranha, 1978, for Dante. For The Howling, the director asked him to essentially throw the novel in the trash and start from scratch. The resulting screenplay only pays the slightest nod to Brandner's fiction. Instead, it transformed into a whole different animal. Speaking of different animals, Sayles was simultaneously working on the script for Alligator, 1980, and a special project for Steven Spielberg. More on that later. He would routinely switch back and forth between different projects within the same day. He was really working like a dog. Sayles was still writing the screenplay when some of the cast came on board. This allowed him to write to their strengths. As a psychology major, Sayles sought to explore the werewolf as a projection of the id, the part of the personality that drives us to satisfy our basic needs and desires. According to Freud, as we grow older, other aspects of our personality help to govern the id so we don't do things like rob a bank or eat an entire bag of Halloween candy in one sitting. Sayles wrote the werewolves as though they did not have the ability to keep their id in check. In addition, Sayles wrote the script in part as a satire of trends that evolved during the 1970s, which author Tom Wolfe called the Me Decade. The film subtly lambasts the smiley face craze, TV psychiatrists, best-selling self-help books, fad treatments, and spiritual retreats. Making this special effects-laden, action-packed thriller on a tight budget of about $1.5 million was quite a challenge. The filmmakers really had to work their tails off. In all, the shoot lasted 28 days, plus reshoots. Locations in and around Los Angeles make up roughly half the film, mainly the Hollywood area and Griffith Park. This included the TV studio, the morgue, the street scenes, the bookstore, the adult bookstore, the tennis courts, and certain outdoor scenes. Malibu Beach was the location for the beach party. Mendocino, north of San Francisco, was the backdrop for the remaining coastal and forest scenes. Shooting took place over many cold nights. Director Joe Dante used as much vibrant color as he could throughout the film to help brighten things up a bit. Careful set decoration and camera angles in the porn store ensured nothing naughty would show. Dante filmed the rape video reel at his home specifically for the film, which made everyone involved feel a little dirty. Speaking of degenerate behavior, this film's art director, Robert A. Burns, had previously worked on The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974, and The Hills Have Eyes, 1977, and you might notice some familiar decorations from those films. The Howling was often a difficult shoot, and sometimes had the crew chasing their tails. Dante credited his editor, Mark Goldblatt, for really tying the film together and making it work.